ndeyekuti munyika mazara nawo. Hakuna asati aonesa chaumutava nawo. Hakuna asati akambobirwa nehurumende kubva kumapensioners, maworkers, vana vechidiki, mastudent. Munhu nemunhu ane nhunha nokubirwa nehurumende.
Zvino mofira here musaga nzira iripo yekurarama.
Motsanenyu wana baba ndimi makaramba kuteerera mashoko zinodiwa namusiki chonaika zvaitanika. Motsanenyu wana baba ndimi makaramba kuteerera mashoko zinodiwa namusiki chonaika zvaitanika.
Here on the Free Talk.
Mutengo wehuku wakutenga sai. Mutengo wehuku wakutenga sai. Mutengo weimba ndo yawerenje. Mutengo weimba ndo yawerenje.
Zimbabwe is in an economic crisis, but those who are looking from within, in government structures, in parliament, and within the ordinary people, they think that Zimbabwe is everything and could be out or extricate itself from this financial crisis if only corruption stops. The pilfering or leakages of financial resources have cost this country massively through corruption. President Emmerson Mnangagwa, upon taking office and coming in as the new dispensation, pledged to fight corruption. But many have said that this has just been lots of talk and less action. Now, in Parliament, there has been a lone voice, some would want to say, that has been fighting and speaking up about corruption. And recently, parliamentarians across Africa recognized Honorable Themba Mliswa as one of the leading lights in fighting corruption. Now, he joins us this afternoon on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation, to discuss his views on what Zimbabwe can do to curb corruption and also the general economic malaise that the nation is facing. Now join us just shortly after this break when we get back to Honorable Themba Mliswa to join us. Welcome back to this, the situation right now, and I'm joined here by Honorable Themba Mliswa, and we're going to be discussing the issues around corruption in Zimbabwe, the political will to fight it, and what can be done to rescue Zimbabwe from this economic malaise. Now, thank you very much, Honorable Mliswa, for joining us, and congratulations on your accolade that you just won.
No, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on this show. And again, I want to thank the people of Urungwe West, where I was started as a member of parliament, Mashonaland West Province and Northern constituency itself, and the Speaker for the National Assembly, Advocate Jacob Mdenda, is honorable for allowing us to exercise our role of oversight.
Now, just Honorable Mliswa, your general overview on the situation around Zimbabwe's economy and corruption.
I've just come from Kenya, where the president, His Excellency Kenyatta, gave a figure of 2 billion shillings they were losing every day in corruption. That made me ask myself a question. as Zimbabwe, how much are we losing per day in terms of corruption? And how much can that do for the people? For as long as we are not able to quantify, we are also being corrupt in terms of what we are losing. We talk about us being endowed with resources, and yet we don't see them getting to the people from the different initiatives, be it the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which has been a talk again, the Indigenization Act, which was to empower people, 51-49, and 10% would go to the community, 10% would go to the workers, and 31% would go into the Sovereign Wealth Fund. From the beginning of that, where has that money gone to? This is the money that you expect to look after the country when it's in a difficult situation. This is your reserve. The Consolidated Revenue Fund, which is the kitty for the treasury. How much money is getting into, and if so, how is it being spent? Why is the minister seeking condonation in parliament for overspending when we say we have a surplus in Zim dollars, a surplus in US dollars? What surplus are we talking about? So to me, all these seem to have been jargons put out there to just confuse people so that those who loot continue to loot. Is there political will? Second Republic promised us that things would change. We believed in His Excellency, Comrade Idi Mnangagwa, to be the person who would cross with us in terms of us being a better people. Is there any political will? His own cabinet, okay, he's involved in presiding over corrupt deals. What's the role of cabinet? Even if the Pomona deal is a good example, if at all it was a wrong deal, why did cabinet sanction that? So to me, it seems they are trying to beat Hussein Bolt over 100 meters by being corrupt. It's a race. It's a race that how much money am I going to make? How much money am I going to get out of it? Instead of it being a race to change the welfare of the people, the lives of the people to what they deserve, to who they should be. Are we a nation anymore? Or it's a jungle out there? The fittest to survive, the most corrupt to survive, and those who can not bear it will suffer.
But Honorable Mliswa, you say cabinet itself has become the center of corruption. Now cabinet is headed by the president. Are you in essence saying that the president himself is corrupt?
We can no longer hide the fact that he's the number one citizen. We can no longer hide the fact that he's responsible for decisions in cabinet. We can no longer write that he is responsible for decisions at ZANU-PF. The reason why I talk about ZANU, it is the ruling party. It is the one that comes with its policies. So for us to go back to the old mantra of saying Mugabe was good, it was the people around Mugabe, those days are gone. We've got to call a spade a spade. The Excellency is in charge. He is in control. He has executive powers. He has every power to deal with any situation. Why is he not doing it? He has the right to appoint. He has the right to disappoint. He has the right to review his team. But if he's not doing that, then he is happy with his team. And ultimately, the blame is with him. And we can no longer, blessed, I'm not one who's going to, that is what made Zimbabwe go wrong. Because the President Mugabe, very right. My ministers do right. But who appoints the ministers? Who presides over government? ZANU-PF. Okay, it does not speak about corruption. Yes, they talk about zero tolerance on corruption and so forth. He is responsible and he must be held accountable. It's as simple as that. The former president lost power through an impeachment process because of misconduct, because of not following the constitution. And that's what we use. That motion was moved by Maridadi at first. I was seconding it. Then ZANU-PF saw it fit. Okay, whether was it factional fights to then want to move it through Honorable Mutsvangwa, then seconded by Maridadi. And that's how the last president lost power because of misconduct. Because of misconduct. So to me, not only that, the vice president, then Comrade Mnangagwa, was also expelled from ZANU-PF by the Mugabe regime for misconduct. So misconduct of what? Because there are certain powers that you have which you must exercise to get this country forward and so forth. Then it's only people who are honest, like myself, who can say, but President, the buck stops with you. The buck stops with you, Mr. President. Hear me. The buck stops with you. You had an opportunity to have an inclusive approach of everybody working for the good of the nation. But you then decided to believe that ZANU-PF has a monopoly to all answers. You then cannot say that when they failed, it's not ZANU-PF. You decided yourself that you did not want to incorporate anybody into the running of the country. And then ZANU-PF fails, you then blame sanctions. But when you were taking over power, did you know that? Did you not know there were sanctions? And what measures did you take to factor in sanctions? Did you not know that there was corruption? So I speak from a nationalistic point of view, from a parliamentary point of view, in my oversight role. Would like to see the president in parliament, and to me he must not be protected. ZANU-PF itself must move a motion to say our president must come to parliament and respond to all these issues, because this is the only house that can talk on behalf of the people. Without that, we are playing again. They are hiding, they are protecting. What are you protecting when everything is all out there? The days to protect are no longer necessary, because everything is out there. All the dirty linen is out there, and the only thing you can do is to clean it in public and let the people see that you're cleaning it in public. You can no longer clean it in private offices. Days are gone.
But we know we have independent institutions in this country. We have the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission. I mean, surely it should be able to deal with issues of corruption, even in the president's office.
Even if they cannot be independent, for as long as you report to a minister, these institutions report to ministers. They consult with ministers. ZEC is not independent. ZAC is not independent. All these institutions are not, because there is a clause which says they must consult the minister. And not only that, the president too, he is responsible for the judiciary. He is responsible for appointing all these people in the powers invested in him.
They're saying that the separation of powers is just theoretical.
It's theoretical. It does not work. It does not work. And this is what has destroyed this country, because for as long as you then say in consultation with the executive, in consultation with the president, then there's no more independence at all, because they report to that. And that's the reason why while people might not agree and understand the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, it's not independent, because it has it is subjected to a Minister of Justice, Honorable Ziyambi. And you cannot also not blame Honorable Ziyambi, because he has to support the party that gave him power, the government of the day, and so forth. There is no government which will want to expose itself. There is no ruling party that will want to expose itself, and so forth. No wonder why members of parliament are whipped. Are they equally independent? No, they're not independent. 129(1) K empowers the party to be able to recall any member of parliament. My expulsion in ZANU-PF, so I was very clear about the corruption that was happening. I was outspoken. So there is no way that they're going to allow you to expose them, because when you expose them, then people see the wrong. But internal democracy does not exist in the political parties. So in it not existing, how then can you build a country? How can you self-critique yourself? The most important thing is for you to be able. You're in journalism. One of the things I learned is, if I've done something wrong, let me give you the story rather than you find out. So to me, ZANU-PF must learn to self-critique itself first before anybody else, and call a media and say, we are wrong here, we have not implemented this, we have not implemented this. It becomes lesser a burden for them than for them to be hiring everybody. ZANU-PF is now a propagandist machinery. They never believed in social media. The late President Mugabe never believed in social media. He was on the ground. Now they're dancing to the tune of the opposition in social media, but social media is not here. Most of the people on social media are in the diaspora. But who's on the ground? It was a machinery which we knew when I was ZANU-PF that Simbakwano. Are you with me? You must be like a tick when it's sucking blood from a mammal. Okay, it does not live. Okay, that's what we were taught to do. But today it's a complete opposite. The war veterans themselves, they've not even honored the promise of making sure that their welfare is better. Can I tell you one thing, blessed, which you don't know? This country is spiritual. There is God, and they are ancestral. And if you ignore those, at your own peril at the end of the day. This country was not won because with great arms. It was won because they were led spiritually. God was with us and the ancestors. No wonder why Mbuya Neanda is there. If we are not ancestral, why is Mbuya Neanda there? Our ancestors were involved, and today our ancestors are happy with what is going on. Our ancestors are happy to see blood spilling of their own people that they liberated. And the ancestors are happy to see the war veterans who fought in the struggle suffering. Are the ancestors happy to see Vanamafika Zulu benefiting? Are their ancestors to see where democracy is not prevailing, where one man, one vote? Are the ancestors happy to see that today in our country, in the constitution, the chiefs are there, the war veterans are there, but the spirit mediums are not there, who are the very same people who are superior? Because umambo pasna shikiro. Kuondo, the reason why they won is because the spirit mediums would lead. That go this way, go this way, go this way. They survived. Where is the national brew? Which must thank those who fought in the struggle and the independence, who contributed to say, thank you very much, we're African, we have a culture, we have a heritage. What about those bodies of the people who were killed in the various countries, Mozambique, Zambia, Tanzania? Where are they even in training? Why have they not come back? And in our culture, you can even take soil and bring it back. That is a bad omen on its own.
But the current government, Honorable Mliswa, that you accuse of being corrupt, has been riding on this mantra of we fought in the liberation struggle, we have the backing of Mashikiros, we have the backing of the chiefs, and this is why they continue to do what you accuse them of doing.
No, if they had the backing of Mashikiro, the spirit mediums, they would not be facing these problems. The president undoubtedly is working hard, but how come people don't see his hard work? How come they don't appreciate it? There's something wrong. How come they don't appreciate it? Yet he's working hard. You see him working hard. There's no team complimenting him. People can see that he has no team. He's like he's on his own and so forth. Every day you hear about the factional fights. You don't. People, they went for elections. They did the roads, but then they never got the votes. They did the roads.
Denying that they're factions. They've denied this. I mean.
But they've survived on factions. We were kicked out because of factions. We were said to belong to Maim Jurue Gamma Talks. 9 chairmen out of 10 provinces were expelled. So then Gamma Talks and Lacoste, we were the mainstream, they were factions. Didmas Mtaso, the Minister of State Security, was briefed that there are 2 factions which have emerged, G40 and Lacoste. Then they got rid of us when they were united. Then Lacoste was then told to march by G40. Then G40 was. So when you're in a factional fight and the other faction wins, you then cannot say they were against us, but yet you kicked other people too. Are you understanding? So I don't understand. If you're a weaker faction, you are. So to me, then when you then don't understand the metric, there's internal democracy which happens, which creates this. So why then don't you then get back together afterwards and say, Tarisan, umambo wapera, unewanu kwa Mliswa, imi kwa mhlanga, chiuyai, mangam chidawe kwa duwe chiuyai, kasi upumi wanani, waya umambo wane kwa Mliswa. So why don't you work together?
So to what extent are these factional fights at the center of creating corruption in this country, or making sure that corruption is not dealt with effectively?
They want you to lose focus. They want to bring in factions while they steal. So the focus is on factions. You get hyped as a people. Or some of these things that happen and so forth, Arakashi and all that, bringing all that is to sidetrack you from the real issues. The smuggling of gold. Gold is smuggling with things. The whites, okay, you talk about Kudata Gurei being corrupt and so forth. I have a different thinking to that. I think he works with government. I think he's a shrewd businessman and so forth. I think investigations have been done and so forth. So if he was indeed corrupt, the whole government then must be arrested.
But you have just said that the government is corrupt, but you have a different thinking. I don't get.
No, the reason why I'm going with the narrative of I'm not saying there's no corruption. Is that, for example, we must also be very clear. And the reason why I bring Kudata Gray as an example is that a lot of people have said to me he's corrupt, and then I've said, but there's Billy Rottenberg, who was given Todo Mine for free. He sold it for 400 million. The money never came in. No one questioned it. No one investigated. We seem to want to follow how blacks are making money. Then we don't follow how whites are making money. INSCO, if you go to Kenya, there's INSCO, they're raising foreign currency. And so why do they need foreign currency from the auction? Why don't they use the foreign currency in other countries? So to me, they've got gold, ACR, which is the biggest gold mining place. Where is the foreign currency going? Yet they're on the auction again. So to me, I want to say that we cannot have a situation where we pinpoint one person. Okay, so the focus now is on Kuda, and then you are leaving the whites.
who are equally corrupt. They are speculating on minerals. You are given a concession, a claim to mine, but you don't mine it, blessed. You go and sell it. Is that not corruption? And where do you sell it to? And where is the money? Has it come back into the country? Right now it's been given Western area. I'm giving an example now to see where corruption is. He's been given, because our leaders are given little change and they're prepared to let a white man escape. Whether black or white, corruption is corruption. But we have a perception that it's the blacks who are corrupt, the whites are not corrupt. Yet the money in this country is in the hands of the whites, on the minority and not the majority. And how are they making the money? Western area has been given Hwange. The future of Hwange as a coal mine was the Western area. He was given. After having failed mining Todo, which was a rich platinum concession. So he's going there again. And no one is saying anything. There are companies which are being bought. Todo, if you look at Tonga Tulet, the thing Radlands have bought it. I'm not saying they must not buy it, but let us trace their wealth. How are they buying it? A lot has been taken out of this country. There's $1 billion worth of gold sitting in Dubai. Yet we don't have that. We should be hedging. I would like to ask the Reserve Bank, how much gold are you sitting on? We're endowed with the resource. The reason why I talk about gold, America is strong economically because it hedges its currency on gold. Why are we not hedging our currency on gold? Where's our gold? Where is the gold reserve to say, okay, this is what is happening from an inflationary point of view, we've got the gold. The oil. America has got tons and tons of oil that they're sitting on. Have you ever heard of any shortage in America? No. Yes, Ukraine, Iraq, Russia, things might happen. But for the next 10, 15, 20 years, they've got reserves. Right now, what reserves are we sitting on in terms of fuel? What reserves are we sitting on in terms of gold? What reserves are we sitting on in terms of money? We have nothing. How can we be a country? It's not dura. Kumusha cheko cheko wanamai wedu wane matura hawanao echikafu, you know that blessed you're African. Mbuya wenyu wanoti chibage chapera, all right. Quietly waenda kudurara wotora wanao wojika havavunduki. Proper planning. We don't plan properly, but we rush to be corrupt.
You seem to be pointing out to the fact that Zimbabwe's problem are caused by lack of planning and lack of leadership. But the leadership also says that the biggest problems this country are caused by sanctions.
No. Sanctions, so is that why you're also corrupt? Sanctions cannot cause corruption. If there's anything, sanctions must cause unity for us to be able to account for every resource in this country. And every resource required in this country, when people want it, they don't look at Zimbabwe, they look at the resource. If your grandmother has been given a claim and it's a rich claim for gold, people are not buying your grandmother, they're buying the mineral. So whether you like to, that mineral will be sought. Let's look at how much money has been generated from minerals in this country since we've been on sanctions. Can it be accounted for? How much illicit flow in terms of revenue has gone out? So let us account how much has platinum got. Zimplats is accounting. It's able to be audited. Mimosa, they're able to, Anglo-American, they're able to be doing that. But there are sanctions and they're performing. Platinum prices have gone down. Why are we making money, blessed? Let's talk. The platinum price during COVID, the prices went up. In Zimbabwe, platinum was bought. So where are the sanctions? De Beers, Anglo-American. Implants and so forth. How many companies do we have here which are linked to America, to Britain and so forth? And when they buy gold, they don't care about the color of your skin. They don't care about your age. Is it pure gold? Is it Zimbabwean gold? The cigarette tobacco, how much money are we making from tobacco? We talk about making 1.2 billion from tobacco. How much money are the farmers making from tobacco? How much money is coming out of that tobacco? I'll tell you, less than 10 million. Check, do your research. Yet would have sold 1.2 billion. And who are these companies? The American companies, BAT, British American Tobacco. They're here doing tobacco and so forth. So where are you blaming sanctions?
But we appear to say our biggest enemies in this country is America, is Britain. They are funding regime change. Yet our government, as you're talking, is doing serious business with them.
They're re-engaging. One thing that you cannot take away from the former late President Mugabe was very clear. He went east. He stopped talking to them. They then started re-engaging us because they realized that China is becoming big in Zimbabwe. It's taking all the resources. They came to re-engage with us. and to say, okay, we want to work. But we have gone to re-engage with them. Inconsistency of policy. Even China is not happy with working with this Zimbabwe today. They said, you've got the most inconsistent people, you've got a government that loves the Western world, but they don't do nothing for you. We are there for you. And with Mugabe, it was the same. But one thing the Chinese will not do is put in money. When Ambassador Chris Mutsvangwa was in China, remember there was talk about $1 billion coming in to inject. It never came. The Chinese don't bring cash. They come to get minerals and so that they get their cash. It's a barter trade sort of approach. Because of who they are able to give you services, which in turn you give them minerals and you give them this and that. No wonder why in this country they never build a structure which will last for more than 5 years. Why they'll be going back to China.
But they built parliament.
But that's on what deal? On what deal? That's a big deal. That's a big deal. They built a national sports stadium. That's a big deal. The question is that at what expense? That's now for you as an investigative journalist to ask. Parliament was built. On what deal? What is there? Quid pro quo, scratch my back, I scratch your back. It's not a donation. Those vaccines that they were bringing in, they were saying they were for free and so forth. They were not for free. In the end, they started giving for free, that they marketed themselves and we paid for them at the end of it. Over 100 million was spent on those vaccines and so forth. They have a way of getting in, but of course there are people like us. That's why I appreciate these interviews. When we meet, we must tell the people that we know a lot more than the leaders think at the end of the day. And the truth of the matter is that remember that when you're in power, you'll be out of power. No wonder why I never fight any government, any leader who wants to put in punitive laws, because you are not in power forever. And those laws again will be used against you and so forth. So I never worry about that. What we want is there's a generation which must enjoy, there's a generation which is suffering. And because of that, we are not realizing our full potential because all our eyes are on corruption. We don't have leadership which is able to unite people, which is able to go back to the founding principles of the struggle. They have lost the founding principles of the struggle, yet a generation coming on board is taking on them and so forth. Whether you like it or not, Nelson Chamisa is young. Okay? Nelson Chamisa is young. There are a lot of young people who are unemployed, who are suffering at the end of the day. At some point, there's political fatigue where you constantly are voting for one party. Even those within that party realize we're not getting anything. They can dance, they can scream, you can go and meet one church, but Zimbabweans have mastered the art of understanding their politicians. If we show them our cards, they will beat us up, but we will beat them in the ballot box. It's a secret. It's a foregone conclusion. It's like anybody wanting to come and campaign in Norton right now. The people of Norton that I know made their decisions. The day I won the election, the next day I started working. They've made the decision already. And for you to change them from that decision is difficult at the end of the day. They'll ask you, when the election ended, where were you so that you work the way Mliswa was working? So it's very clear. So people are taking stock. They take stock and they pretend to be stupid at the end of the day. The pensioners, they've lost everything. NASA has become a looting house where they're now opening foreign accounts. ZAC, Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, is trying all it can, but it hasn't got arresting powers. It has arresting powers, it hasn't got prosecution powers. Let them be given the prosecution because they know the case. Blessed and Mliswa have been arrested for ABCD. They've got the investigation, they've got the records. Let them also stand before the judge and say, we arrested him because they're able to tell the full story when they're given the powers to prosecute at the end of it. You lose nothing. Okay, you even save on taxpayers' money. You can be given a prosecution authority yourself to prosecute your own case. Somebody stole from you, you have the evidence, you understand. Present it before the judge and let the judge be thing. But no one, again, if I've written letters on the Commissioner General of Police Matanga on his corruption to anti-corruption, copy to the president. If they have a case, the president has got to say yes or no. I've written about July Moyo. Yes or no? In Parliament, devolution funds, Honorable Marian Chombo admitted that we are disbursing money without an enabling act. How can that happen? How can cabinet authorize that? Where is the Attorney General to legally advise the president that no, president, this cannot happen? While it is the obligation of the Minister of Finance to disburse money to you, but there must be an enabling act where you follow the law. So they don't follow the law at the highest level. Who follow the law? Rule of law is critical. Human decency is critical. Human integrity is critical when you're then going to lead the people. Is it there? Is it showing? No. Different strokes for different folks. Today you read that Job Scholar has been arrested, but the person who made noise, who was unpaid, the councillor, who provoked and who beat people up has not been arrested. God sees and God will act. Election day is coming.
But let me bring you back to Zach, that you say it's working very hard. It's been given the Auditor General's report, and you have been vocal about the Auditor General's report. Nothing has happened. We have not seen any action. You talk about Wange. There's a damning report about Wange Colliery under the supervision of the Minister of Mines, and nothing has been spoken about.
But you pay the price. If you don't act and things are so obvious, the Auditor General's report and the Auditor General herself, credit must go to her, Madam Chiri. She's amazing the way she discharged her job. She remains consistent. Even with Parliament, she will raise the flag that you're not doing things properly here. Do them properly at the end of the day. By the way, when the Auditor General's reports are out there, it does not mean you're stealing, but they tell you there's something wrong and you have to correct it. Zach, there was something wrong. Even Parliament was cited. There was something wrong. You need to correct it and so forth so that your books are in order and so forth. And lack of acting on those reports, there are consequences that people suffer at the end of the day. What I say to politicians, even in a house, when children say, I don't have a lunch box for me to have lunch at school, my shoes are torn, and you ignore that, the repercussions that they'll lose their self-esteem, they'll start failing in class, and they'll say, but Dad, Mama used to tell you my shoes were torn, and how can I feel good amongst other children? I told you I needed a lunch box to put my lunch in there and so forth. You can't put it in a paper and all that. I cannot eat in front of my friends and so forth. I don't care what's in the lunch box, whether imbambaira, chibagi, but there is some lunch box, but not more paper, the newspaper. The Nojiga say, they suffer, and the results which come out of the test and exams are reflective of you having ignored what the source of the problem was. Let's go to the source of the problem. The source of the problem in this Second Republic is 17th of November 27, when they betrayed the nation on the Revolutionary March, the People's March, which is Zimbabwe, even Chamisa, even Trangirai, may his soul rest in peace, had decided to say, we need a better Zimbabwe. Mugabe is the one that overstayed in power, and we've suffered because of Mugabe. But we must now start thinking, was it Mugabe? Was he alone? That's why I'm saying this is the ZANU-PF Central Committee, which is the principal organ of the party. By the way, I know the constitution, which from time to time shall determine the course of the party outside Congress. Congress being superior to the Central Committee, the Politburo being the secretariat of the Central Committee, but the Politburo is behaving like the power. It's not the power, it's the secretariat of the Central Committee. What is the Central Committee doing to go through what the Politburo agrees to ratify? They're not ratifying. That's unconstitutional. You are fired at the Politburo level. If there's a disciplinary committee of the chairman, of the national chairman of the party, the security, the youth, the legal affairs, and the women's league as a 5-man committee. Why are they not presiding over disciplinary issues and so forth? A lot can be questioned and so forth. When people are in power, they forget procedures which are there. A lot can be challenged in what is going on in ZANU-PF. Just that there is an unwritten rule. You can't take your party to court. You can't fight them. You can't stand against your party. That's the reason why I decided to stand as an independent. Some of them will say and be an outcast, but I've always said this. People say, Temba, you're ZANU-PF. I don't argue with you. That's the only party I know. My father was up. He was in Zambia. Then ZANU-PF was united. I became. But that's not to say I agree with what's going on in ZANU-PF. I don't associate myself with this ZANU-PF. Even Robert Mugabe, his worst in terms of heavy-handed approach, they went to him and said Temba cannot stand as chairman of March West because he is aligned to ED, he's Karanga. And Mugabe says, for those reasons, let him go and contest, let him lose. And I won. He called me when I went to him and said, do you know that they did not want you to stand? These people here, Chombo, they did not want you to stand. Wanachi Dakwa, they did not want to stand. Yes, was Zuru. But I said, let the game be on the ground. So to me, you must allow democracy to happen. You cannot stop people from choosing who they want. You cannot impose leaders. Mugabe, with his wisdom, would have liked as a Zulu to have been a chairman of his province of Zulu, but I was a Karang. When I was fired, he still said, you were wrong to fire this young man. He was building the party. Kaskwera told me that Mugabe said that, and I wrote to the president, what you've done is wrong. Blessed. Ask the people, you've got us fired for no reasons. The president who said, you are next. Was he not next? He was. He then sat down with Kaskwera, asked him and said, that fella, Kaskwera jokes that Mugabe referred to as a fella, that fellow was correct. He wrote to me, said to me, President, the presidents that you've sent, no one ever sat down, and the record must be clear. No one ever sat down to say Maim Juru should be there. Maim Juru was a daughter to Mugabe. Maim Juru wanted to save under Mugabe. It's Mugabe who wanted Maim Juru. It's different. We didn't want Maim Juru. There's no meeting which was ever held, and the country must know this politically, that at some point, Madara, with their conscience, if they were in the struggle together, they truly believe in God, must sit down and apologize and say, we were wrong. Maim Juru never said that. It was our trick to be in power. That's the reason why it's difficult to govern for them, because you get into power on falsehoods. They are in power because of falsehoods. It becomes difficult to then hunt when you've got dogs that have no teeth.
The Minister of Finance is looking to come to Parliament with a mid-term budget. What do you expect from it?
Listen, it is the biggest circus. There's no point him coming there. We approve budgets for ministries, 30% goes there. That's where corruption starts in. When people don't have enough, what do? They do nothing. They end up being corrupt. The first obligation is to fulfill the passing of the budget, to say this ministry is going to be given 20 million. It's disbursed there. It's disbursed there. There's not been a consistent disbursement of money when the budget is ever approved. We burn midnight candles. For what? For what? For what? Ministries must be able to come back and say, okay, the money you gave us is not enough. Then there's a supplementary budget. He doesn't come for a supplementary budget. Should you blame him? You can blame Mtuli, you can blame Mangunja and all that for doing what they're doing, but you must blame the politicians. They work for politicians who are inconsistent. 1 minute you have His Excellency talking about banks not loaning. The next minute you have him, you have a reversal. The next minute you have the president saying a major general and a commander in the struggle, he gets state-assisted funeral, yet Soldier Love was a provincial hero getting a better status. The next thing, he reverses it again. The next thing, you've got people from my father's party, Zapu's, the Zipra commanders, who today are ignored because of tribal lines and so forth. We're still with tribal lines. Today you have Mai Tongo Gara, Nana Mai Nikita Mangena, Mai Mangena, the wives of the generals of the founding struggles who have nowhere to stay. But these generals today are staying in these great houses. How sincere are they? Leaving aside the wives and the families of the people who were the commanders for them.
But Honorable Mliswa, I mean, you speak like this when the nation thinks that those who went to war are the ones who are benefiting from this economy, because this is what constantly is repeated.
No, but this is why you've got to understand that the war veterans were always used as a scapegoat. Now they've decided to stand by what they fought for, and they're seen to be enemies. Look at this vetting exercise which they did. It's a scam, the biggest fraud ever, over 162. You are a seasoned journalist. You've been told that you, together with Stanley Gama, with Hope Wechingonyo, with Robson Sharuko, Jao Oma, Tommy Stole, the late Kerema, you are the panelist of choosing upcoming journalists. And then they realize you're against them. Then they bring those upcoming journalists to be the ones to choose the real journalists. Could you call them true journalists when you are not there as the panel? No, these are not true comrades. Okay, it's a hoax. It's a joke. Okay, this is the biggest theft ever in the country again, but it taints the genuine and sincere war veteran. This is where I miss the likes of retired and late Chief Emma Shoshiri. He was a man of the people, humble. He dealt with the ordinary war veteran. I was close with him. You say to me, Temba, you see this, whenever he finished working his uniform, he'll go to the ordinary war veteran. He said, these are the guys who worked hard. The real comrades are struggling. they're struggling, they don't say anything. Humility, how many are there? 50,000, now they are less. Could we not build 50,000 homes for them? Can they not be on medical aid for 50,000 things? Where are they today? Who are we as a country? Then we criticize America and Britain. How do they look after their war veterans of the struggle compared to us? Excellent. They are respected and so forth. Whether we like it or not, they were involved in the violence. They admit because they were given commands, because a war veteran is as good as a soldier because it's a reserve force of the defense. So they take command. And now because they said, no, we don't want any of this rubbish, we want to really be people who have suffered enough, they've then been targeted. How can you use state apparatus, the money that belongs to them, the money that belongs to government, to say we are not going to give you? How cruel can you be to people today who have nothing, who are about to die? Are they really going to use that money? Do they need it? No. But for their children, for their grandchildren, that's what they need the money for. And you think their ancestors will fold their arms and allow you to be in power? No.
I want to put you on the economy for a bit. We have seen just 3 weeks ago, bread was at about 300 Zimbabwean dollars. In a few weeks, it went up to 600. Now it's on 1,000. This speaks to our currency. Is there anything that can be done in the midterm to make sure that we stabilize and give people a bit of some hope?
3 things. 1, dollarize. 2, dollarize. 3, dollarize now. That's it. Then you work on your production. You are getting more foreign currency, which you then put slowly in the market. And then while you are using, while your currency is gaining strength. We have said this for how many times? Honorable BT, you might not like him and so forth. He's brought this up several times in Parliament. I've brought it up in Parliament. The ZANU-PF people silently, they say it because they are whipped. Okay, they are members of parliament, they are suffering. This lack of dollarization and understanding. And we did not say that we don't want our Zim dollar, we want it. Are you with me? You go to Kenya today, you go to Zambia, they still got their currency. But it was allowed to flow to get to a point where this is what our Zim dollar is against the dollar. Are you with me? But if you now don't allow a river to flow in its direction, blessed, and you are putting a rock there, okay, and you've put sand there, it will be washed away, and what then comes is a heavy wave. So the rate is a heavy wave as a result of you wanting to put something to block a natural flow. Allow the river to flow in its direction, and then you will see that that's what you needed to do with the rate. You don't manage the rate, and then from there we start to produce, okay, and people start wanting the Zim dollar. It's now coming in slowly. It's now coming in slowly. Most currencies in the world are hedged against the US dollar and so forth. So why do we then? You've got hypocritical people. You've got the propaganda which is not working of people like Chris Mutsvangwa having their children in Canada, having to school. What I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you speak, and you're saying America is bad, Canada is bad, the EU is bad, can you also act accordingly? Can you associate with the right people, not with the Canadians, the American and the Europeans? Then associate with the Africans. Because you are saying these people are not good, and you're the party spokesperson. But you now don't know what the party stands for. And then you want people to then listen to you and say, ZANU-PF will do this in this election. When it first they can't. There's got integrity. We'll read, we analyze. You don't like this one. Blessed, you don't like this person, but you are dining and whining with them every day. Are you not a double agent? And the Americans allow you to be in their country, yet you are ZANU-PF spokesperson. Other people are on sanctions and you are not. Quid pro quo. Scratch my back, I scratch your back. Americans don't just associate with you for nothing.
So, Honorable Mliswa, I mean, we are going into elections, and there's been already bouts of violence that are coming through, and on top of that, you released an audio where you were talking about ZANU-PF support going down even in the rural areas. Let's talk about the violence, the support base. What's really happening?
You've got to understand that ZANU-PF 2008, there was a GNU. They didn't do well. They then worked with war veterans to go and mobilize for them in terms of 2013.
And that's when, again, the opposition was saying, we're not going for elections, which was a disaster because people did not vote, did not participate. But funny enough, they then stood for the election. So what was the point of saying, don't register, don't vote? Because if you say don't register, don't vote. So that was a bad narrative, and they must stop that because it does not help them in the end. ZANU-PF continued with the restructuring, which I know very well. I was part of ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF had lost in Urungwe West, had imposed a candidate, and the opposition had won in a rural constituency. They came back to me and said, listen, we need you back, you're going to lead, but the war veterans will put the structures. Indeed, they rebuilt the party with proper structures from cell to branch to district to province. You've got to understand, every year there are elections for the cell in January in ZANU-PF. Every 2 years, district. Every 2 years branch, 3 years district, 4th year it's province. So that is the structure which has always been there. So how then can you, before 2013, put a structure like that, go to 2018, there are no structures of that nature. There's not been a verification, and they've not been re-elections and restructuring of the party. And then the very same people who were in power 2013 are the very same people you have in power 2018, are the very same people you want to go with 2023. It is impossible. It is impossible. You cannot win. They've failed to have a strategist in terms of mobilization. I can tell you one thing, and Kasukwere and many other people who have seen me at play when I'm mobilizing from a commissariat point of view, I have a gift. I'm very scientific. Youth Advocacy for Reform and Democracy, YAD, is one of the few that comes up with proper statistics, analysis of constituencies, because we go on the ground. And it's scientific now. You don't stand for an election. I don't stand for an election, blessed, before I do an analysis. Not on, I was at 91% for me to be there. Okay. This time I do an analysis again. If I realize that it's below 60, 70, I don't want to be there. ZANU-PF had over 2/3 majority, if we're analyzing. And then a president has 50.08. It's never happened. So how come he lost in his party? So we want to give a proper analysis for people to understand, why did he lose votes in his party? Then Chamisa, his party had 1.6, he had 2.1, so he gained 500,000. You must ask, where is it? And demographically, who are these? Are they young people or what? When you're doing a proper analysis, constituencies which ZANU-PF did not do well, where the MP got more votes than the president, what analysis have you come up with? Was it the MP who did not work hard, or the people just did not want the candidate? Are you with me? For as long as ZANU-PF does not do that analysis, they're wasting their time. Not only that, 50.08% with what is going on right now. Has it gone up or down? That's where the analysis must be.
Barometer says over 51% still trust the president.
No, listen to me. There are many ways of saying that. Okay, trusting the president and voting for the president are two different things. You can be trusting the president, yet you're not a registered voter. So that's a different thing altogether. You've got to look at the confidence on the people on the ground. The rural people, where 70% of the votes are. Whether you like it or not, the late Comrade Mugabe was well informed by the institutions. The army, CIO, police briefed him well. He listened to them. That national joke. You will never get a general like Chiwenga. I mean, generals might come, but what he did in Restore Legacy, no other general will do that in this country. That I can tell you. Because it needs you to be of a certain caliber. That you must give it to him at the end of the day. But that's why I'm saying, for people to say there will be a coup, and it will never happen again, because there can only be one Chiwenga. Not two, not three. There can only be one Shiri. So they were a different breed of commanders who knew each other and so forth. The current breed of commanders, you cannot compare them to that national joke of Chiwenga, Shiri, Chuhuri, Zimondi, Bonyongwe. That was a serious one. That worked for the president. And it worked for the president because they enjoyed the power that was vested in them through the president being in power. So right now, if you are not enjoying that power, what is the point? The security is gone.
They're not
No. You cannot enjoy power when there is an economic crisis like this. You can't. And when you don't have propagandists who are able to do that. Jonathan Moyo, George Charamba, whether you like it or not, Mugabe, with all
Jonathan used to say about him, but he brought him back. He told Didmas Mtasa to go and talk to Jonathan to come back. Jonathan will tell you, even if he watches this interview, that Didmas was his key person in coming back. And Mugabe is somebody who he listened to in the party, to Didmas Mtasa. He brought him back, despite all the things Jonathan said about Mugabe, but because he was told, you need to change your propaganda. You need to.
Emerson Mnangagwa has Nick Mangwana, he's got George Charamba.
Listen. George Charamba is not a party spokesperson. Okay, he is the presidential spokesperson. There's a great difference, and the truth of the matter is that he is being shelved. George understands propaganda, but they've put him where he has no powerful propaganda. By removing from being permanent Secretary of Information, that was a wrong mistake. You cannot compare Nick Mangwana to George Charamba. I can even do a better propaganda for ZANU-PF as permanent Secretary of Information than Nick Mangwana. I've been on the ground. I understand. I have won. It's a winning face. Are you with me? So, not that I don't like Nick, fine. But is he the right person for the job? No. Okay, George Charamba was removed from there. That's a demotion. You are made presidential spokesperson. Why? Because of the internal. He's perceived to belong to the faction of Chiwenga, which I believe there's no faction. George was one of the first people, Charamba, to work with Professor Moyo Cholocho. They are the ones who schemed it. So today, how can he change there? But now Nemakua of people who are not professional, who are not intellect, who don't have political capital, economical capital, e.g. Owen Muda, Kumalo. What capital does it bring to even to kindergartens? What value would he give to kindergarten class? Julaimoy. He has lost. He says he's the president's strategist. How can you be the president's strategist when you lose in a constituency? So what strategy do you bring for the president? What did they talk about when the president was being kicked out in terms of Central Committee? Say, now if he's gone, we're also going. There are a few people who stood by him. I went to SADC. You know that when they were having a meeting, I stormed into a SADC meeting and said, no, Zimbabwe is good. I would go to Brussels and speak because I supported the president, not because I want a position, because I believed in his leadership. I believed in change in the country.
Past tense.
Yes.
Why are you using a past tense?
You review relationships from time to time. You review what you believe in from time to time. The president I see today is not the president I used to stand for. He's not the president that I fought for him to be there. I must be very honest. You see, I want to die peacefully. So in dying peacefully, I must be honest. You see, that's one thing you must understand. ED that we knew was decisive. The ED that we knew was thorough. The ED that we knew in parliament when we grew up reading was inclusive. The opposition would say, at times we thought he was opposition when Mugabe was there, but because he did his job. And that's the ED that we wanted to see. The ED that we knew had a business mind.
What has changed him?
The team around you. The team around you. When you start drinking a lot, your wife will ask, who are your friends? Do they drink a lot? If they drink a lot, that's why you're drinking a lot. So what do? You must move away from that group. You must get rid of that group. Because they will drown you. They have nothing to lose. These are people, when you go away, they'll say, it's not us, it's him. So to do, there must be a review of relationships, policies of the cabinet. And that review is necessary. It's never late. We made a mistake. I thought we were on the right path, but we are not. I'm changing my cabinet. BT comes in as Minister of Finance. You come in, if you say no, people, they've seen you having extended reconciliation. If we could forgive the whites for killing us, why can't President Mnangagwa forgive his own people who are black? That's what kills me.
But people argue that, Mtulingwe, Professor, is the best finance minister we've had in the country.
He's a technocrat, but can a technocrat work around politicians? Chamisa did well because he was a politician and he could get around. There is a difference. Are we ready for technocrats as a country? Are we ready to give them a job so that they advise us? And advice which might hurt politics, but at the end of the day, people will feel better. That's the question that the technocrats getting into any government must ask themselves, that can we be listened to, or my career would have been damaged? And then they are used as scapegoats. They can't anymore, because firing Mtulinwe does not mean he was wrong. He constantly presented issues before cabinet endorsed, and it becomes a decision of cabinet, not a decision from Mtulinwe. His monetary policy is a result of that. Mafume, you see him, Harvard man, trained, straight-jacketed, English and everything. He does not sit on the Politburo of ZANU-PF. Chamisa did. He could argue in there. So we must understand and ask ourselves as a country, is that, can we do that? Can we bring in technocrats and listen to them? And yet they are not politicians. Or should we change the constitution that ministers must be technocrats and must not be members of parliament? Separation of power. That's the other issue again. You have a constitution where ministers are members of parliament.
So with all these things, do you see us being able to sit on the family of nations as an economic powerhouse with political stability?
No. We've not been honest to our people, first of all. You see, I've always said, if you decide to be a politician, Dara blessed, you must go to Mom, our mother, and say, Mom, do you think I can mobilize people? If your mom says no, then don't do it. If she says yes, she becomes your biggest commissar. At church, she tell people, Blessed has decided to be councillor and MP. She starts mobilizing for Kumvura, they're talking about it. And then you know that you're in. But if your mom says no, then you can't do it at the end of the day. So to me, you need to feel the people. You need to review and hear what the people are saying at the end of the day. So you know this is what clearly in the analysis of ZANU-PF has not rebranded at all. And in not rebranding, there is a problem at the end of the day. All this that is happening is panic. 2008 Mugabe, there was violence. He, at the end of the day, was told that MDC came from ZANU-PF, so they were more violent than ZANU-PF. They were trained by ZANU-PF. So at times you're a master, but your teacher becomes a master. So it's very difficult. Right now the young people have energy. You see what has happened. We did not need that. Rule of law. That councillor was supposed to be zeroed in immediately. And violence is not work. When you are violent, you lose more votes. That's what happened in 2008. The more heavy-handed they were, and so these police officers, be it in the security, in the army, in the CIO, are also suffering. Do you think they enjoy opening doors and closing doors and being sent to go and get envelopes and he doesn't get even something out of it? He gives an envelope with his heart saying, damn, this man, when is he going to get out of power? He goes home angry. The wife is asking him, now school fees, disposable income, basic. Goods are going up prices, but salaries are not going up. How can that be? How can that be, blessed? And then you say, okay, we'll then cushion with US dollar. But you say we don't want the US dollar. Then you blame Mangunja. Mangunja, to his credit, whether you like it or not, the bond was strong. The bond was 1 to 3, 1 to 4. Huh? And then when these monetary policies came in, then it shot up. So to me...
So you're saying it's the Harvard guy who let the rate go wild?
No, I would not blame him. I would blame the president, for he presides over the appointment of ministers and over policies that cabinet cannot be superior. Cabinet cannot ignore tenders. Pras, they ignore willy-nilly and so forth. But these things will come to haunt them one day at the end of the day. The office of the president of the cabinet is responsible evaluation and monitoring. What are they monitoring when there's misgovernance of permanent secretaries, the Auditor General's reports, raised flags all over and so forth? You know, so to me, it becomes difficult to go into an election. What? 2008, GNU, 2013, ZANU-PF get 2/3 majority. How is that? The economy was stable. Be it was Minister of Finance, Minister of Health was Madzori, Minister of Education was Coulthard, ICT was Chamisa, Economic Development, Mashakada. What did Mugabe do? He decided to give them tough ministries so that if it gets to 2013 and it's not good to say the economy, I was not running it. It was MDC running it. Share the blame. Share the blame. But who had the last laugh? It was Mugabe. He got 2/3 undisputed. Undisputed. After a GNU, after bringing in the dollar, the economy was dollarized. The economy, to a point where I'm told that even BT at times, Tsvangira wanted to fire BT, but Mugabe would object to say, no, why are you firing him? If you fire him, I'll bring him back. Because people went to an election with the economy stable. That's what they think about. And we want this to continue. If the economy is not stable, they will say, we don't want this. That's a natural phenomenon within people, a feeling. And let no politician say, no, what Mliswa was saying is anti-ZANU-PF. I'm talking about humanity. Humanity. You must go to an election knowing kuti upenyu wandu ukurarama wakanaka, economy iri right, ndogona kupinda mstoro ndichitenga chinkwa ndisara ne change yakutenga mazai, yakutenga beans, yakutenga butter, ndonodya breakfast yakanaka nevana vangu, not kupinda mstoro going towards election mari yakwira tonyepa kuti US dollar, ma sanctions, PVO bill, muri kuchinja ma bills, yet my NGOs anokubetserai. You talked about nearly $1 billion akataura, the Minister of Finance, that this is the money that has come in from the NGOs, which is good. But that money was coming in for disposable income for the people who are not making it at the end of the day. The diasporan vote. Why should I put in money where I'm not a shareholder?
I just want to just hear your vibe on this. The opposition, there's the CCC, there's the MDC-T led by Douglas Monzora, who is likely to give ZANU-PF a run for their money in 2020.
It's a well-known issue. It's a well-known issue. The by-elections were indicative of that. Monzora, I don't know why people have not understood them. He's intelligent. Monzora wanted to outwit the MDC within. He did it. Monzora, as a politician, wants to make money. He's done it. Monzora can never win a presidential election. Monzora has never wanted to be a president. So you're forcing him to be a president when he doesn't want to be a president. Where he is, he's happy. And that's it. It's well known. And there were people within MDC Alliance who also felt that at some point Chamisa was not standing up for them. So they needed survival. These are MPs who are poor. So you don't blame them. The problem that they have now is being accepted back by the electorate. Because the electorate, CCC, has momentum in terms of the opposition, has momentum. And there's no ways you can say you're talking to Monzora, and in talking to Monzora and those political actors, you're talking to politicians or to anybody. No, you might as well forget about them and just talk to Chamisa.
But then the ZANU-PF has insisted that it will talk to the political actors in Monzora. Does that have any benefit?
No, there's no benefit. The political actors you can talk about, not that I also want to praise myself, is Chamisa and myself. I beat all of them. I don't know why you don't give me credit. I beat all of them. And heavily so. ZANU-PF 4,000 in my constituents in Mutsvangwa, MDC 7,000, and me 17,000. Allah blessed. Don't you think I should also be part of the talks? And the independent people are the majority who vote, because most people who vote don't belong to political parties. So why am I not there representing the independent people? Are you worried I'll say something that will upset you? So you cannot stifle the thinking of the people through representatives and so forth. It's better to be talking to think Chamisa at the end of the day. This is a waste of time, waste of taxpayers' money, and it has no significance at all. Monzora, like I say, why do we talk about him? He's happy where he is. He's happy where he is, and he's achieved what he needed to achieve. As a lawyer, he outwitted them. He was smart, and he took over power, and that's good enough. He's in Harvest House, he's got an executive room there, and so forth, but that's not power to the people. The issue are those people who are working with them, who both support Chamisa and so forth. And whether it was a strategy for them, but it will be difficult for then people to say, but when we wanted you to stand by Chamisa, you were not there. There's a wave. There's a wave. The Chamisa thing is a wave. You know, it's a yellow army. It is a wave. And at any given time, every season, there's a crop, there's a fruit which does well. and so forth. Whether it will win the elections, it's a different thing altogether. It's how they mobilize strategically and so forth. But the truth of the matter, the two political parties in this country, ZANU-PF and CCC, those are the two political parties you have. One being the ruling party, one being the opposition party. And they strategically did well to also bring it up towards, because politics is expensive. See, that regalia, it's people who are not Sonny Ravega. You need that. And when you're dealing with ZANU-PF, you must be rich. They use state apparatus. They've got friends who give them money and so forth. When you're not in power, no one gives you money. So you must be cognizant of that fact that because people think politics here is money, we must give them money. But this movement has been created with people sacrificing themselves. That's the difference now. Huh? That's a new impetus. And it will have momentum, because whoever is going there is not going there to do anything but to want democracy to prevail, the will of the people to succeed and to get a better country and so forth. So that's the difference of this current CCC, which is whether they have a constitution or not and everything, people will do what they want. He's young. He got over 500 votes, more than his MPs, like I said, in the last election. So he's liked by the people, and there is also charisma in politics at the end of the day. And without it, it becomes difficult for you to get people on your side.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Honorable Mliswa, for your time. But as I normally do, I'll give you this opportunity just to look at people of Zimbabwe and just share a message from your heart. On anything.
Stop hating each other. Stop being polarized. Stop allowing generations to suffer, because you're the time to change, okay, and make it better for a generation. What role have you played yourself to make it better for next generations? Generations have suffered. Is this how you'd have loved to have lived? We grew up in an environment, 1980, when it was just Zimbabwe. We went to school, got milk, we had great teachers, we had everything that we wanted. Why can't we do the same to our people? Basic needs, a foundation of education. And let's love each other. Let's not allow politicians to divide us. Social media, I see the hate language. What for? What does it do for you? If you are frustrated, take your friend, go and register to vote and release your anger in the ballot by voting for who you want at the end of the day. Whether you participate in voting or not, you still suffer. You can't go around I did not register. Tambura economy haizi akaregister ne asina kuregister akavota ne asina kuvota. He asina kuvota and to radziwa wese. Let's pick it up, let's go and vote. Let's be democratic and let's respect the rule of law. Let's love each other. No need for violence. No need for blood to be shed, because blood was shed once. God allowed that blood to be shed in the ancestors during the liberation struggle. May we see us being washed by the blood of Jesus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Themba Mliswa. Now I was talking to the legislator for Northern, Honorable Themba Mliswa, who's an independent. An amazing personality he is. You know, he has gone through politics of ZANU-PF, harassed there, stood up as an independent member of parliament, and has been one of the most outstanding parliamentarians speaking around aspects of corruption, fighting corruption, and speaking truth to power. He was recognized by African parliamentarians in Kenya just over this past week, where he was seen as the leading light and voice in fighting corruption. Now, he shared his views on corruption, politics, and the economy on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation and me, your host, Dara Blessed Mhlanga, as always on Heart and Soul TV and radio. Thank you for choosing us as your station of choice. Please don't forget to follow us on our Twitter page at HSTV News, on our Facebook page, Heart and Soul Zim, and on our Twitter page, HSTV Zim. This is the Free Talk. This is Frederick Newman Foundation. This is Heart and Soul TV and radio. Thank you very much. I am Dara.
nyika